right, I was supposed to give a keynote speech, but I would rather go to church for a second. We need a little religion in here tonight. I want to tell you two stories about two sort of faithful moments. The first one is just a story about Newark that has a high level, as Stephen Colbert says, a high level of truthiness. And it's about a small church in my city that had a pastor who was upset because there's two young boys that kept cutting up and causing trouble, two brothers. Everybody tried to do something about it, deacons, choir directors, nobody could do anything. So the pastor said, I got to take matters into my own hand. He brought the two kids down to his office. He sat the younger of the two brothers outside, and he brought the other kid in, sat him in front of his desk, and they just stared at each other. The kid had his face on a pout, his arms crossed, just stared down the pastor. The pastor wasn't flinching, he just stared at him. And finally he decided, you know what, I gotta try something different with him. So the big Bible sat there on his desk, and he put his hand on the Bible, and he just said in his deep baritone voice, my son, tell me, where is God? And at that point the boy's eyes shot open, and he looked at the pastor with a different expression, one of fear. And the pastor said, oh my gosh, the good book's done got him. And I'm gonna double down on this. And so he picked up the Bible, and now he sat there and he just waved it in the air, and he said, my son, I said, tell me now, where is God? And at this point, the boy grabbed the armrest of the chair and he started shaking from top to bottom. And the pastor thinks to himself, oh, I got this guy now, I'm gonna go even further. And so he stands up, the boy leans back, the pastor leans forward with the good book, and he repeats in his loud Sunday morning apex of your sermon voice, he said, my son, tell me now, where is God? And at this point, the boy jumps up, shaken from head to toe, sprints out of the pastor's door, slams it behind him, grabs his little brother by the hand and says, man, we got to get out of here. God's missing, and the pastor thinks we took him. So, where is God? It's a question we must ask. Here in our nation, with all of our children, we still see kids going to bed hungry. We still see kids living in toxic environments with lead paint. We still see challenges, not just in America, around the globe, facing our kids. As we sit back at home, we think to ourselves that question, where is God in all of this? But you see, the question should never be, where is some deity, where is God? The question should always be, where are we? What is our responsibility? What is our role? How can we be the agent of change? And this is what inspires me about KIDS. They're not sitting back and waiting. They don't think that democracy is a spectator sport. They realize it is a full contact, participatory endeavor, and you gotta get in the game. And this is the power of getting in the game. And I see it with my eyes now, but I know it in my heart from then. You see, my father grew up in the Deep South, and I've heard his stories now for 40 years. Now, I will be honest with you that his stories get more dramatic every single year. My father will say to me now, he used to say to me, son, I grew up poor. And now if I say that, if he was in this audience, he would heckle me and say, boy, I wasn't born poor. I was po, P-O. I couldn't afford the other two letters. I was a po boy from North Carolina. And my father was born to a single mother who couldn't take care of him. And if it wasn't for individuals, a community of people that refused to let one child fail, I wouldn't be standing here today. People took my father in, put food on the table, put a roof over his head. 2 Thanksgivings ago, my father started crying when we were going around the table talking about what we're thankful for, and my father, who's getting a little older now, started crying. He says, I feel bad because I can't remember the names of those people. When I was not going to college because I could not afford it, ordinary folk put dollar bills in envelopes to allow me to afford a semester's tuition at North Carolina Central University and start off my college career. I don't know who those people are either. But their small acts of kindness are the reason I'm standing here right now. You see, this is the powerful thing about life, is that the biggest thing you could do in any day is a small act of kindness. That we can't be those people who allow our inability to do everything undermine our determination just to do something. And the powerful things is those small acts of kindness can change destinies. Generations yet unborn felt the love that my father experienced as a child. My father used to go around saying, son, you are, he would hit me like doing one of those man things, boy, son, you are a physical manifestation of a conspiracy of love. People whose names you don't know, people who you'll never be able to think, ordinary folk came together and through their goodness and kindness and decency allowed you to be here now. And my father would tell me stories about my one obligation. He would say, that obligation, son, I'll tell it to you in my story. And he would tell me the story. It would always be more dramatic. It always took place in a school. First it was a schoolhouse. Then it was a one-room schoolhouse. Then it was a schoolhouse in a weird geographical anomaly that you had to walk uphill to get to it, and then uphill again to go home. Now it's just a lean-to on the side of a mountain. Always raining. You know, my father says this woman walks into a classroom and says, young ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to know this is the first day of school. Teacher stood there. Now I'm going to teach you all about self-esteem. I want you all to believe in yourself. So I need to know who thinks they're dumb. Anybody in this classroom thinks you're dumb or thinks you're stupid? And my father said nobody moved. And my father just said that the teacher kept standing there waiting. Come on, you think you're dumb? You think you're stupid? Stand up. And my father said, finally, he said, shucks, pushed his chair back and stood up. And the woman looked at my dad and said, boy, what's wrong with you? You think you're dumb? You think you're stupid? And my father said, he just scratched his head and said, well, shucks, ma'am, I don't think I'm stupid, but I didn't want you to be the only one standing. What my father said to me is your only obligation, son, is to stand up. This world didn't create you to fit in, it created you to stand out. Make sure you stand up, because change will not roll in on the wheels of inevitability. It must be carried in on the backs of people that will stand for it. Stand up. Because as Frederick Douglass says, in life you don't get everything you pay for, but you must pay for everything you get, and therefore you must stand up and pay the price for justice. Pay the price for love. Pay the price for the values you want to see in the world by living them yourself. And this then is how I want to end, with the bookend of religion. Now, I'd want to end with what's called, for those of you who deal in that Goyim world, I would like to end with the Parsha of the week. Now, if the Jews in the room would lean to the non-Jews near your table and explain to them what a Devar Torah is, because I'm about to give one. I'll take it a minute. Somebody help out the non-Jews in the room. All right. I began in church. I got to end in shul. I want to end in shul. Now, so the Devar Torah of this week, don't yell it out because I know you all know that the Devar Torah of the week is Vayetze. Oh, you all know that, right? Good. The Devar Torah this week is all about who? Joseph. Somebody laughed. You don't know that? Joseph. And the reason why I want to end there is because there's two moments in this portion of the Torah. The first is that Joseph is in jail for 10 years. 10 years. And in the 10th year, he sees two guys, a baker and a butler. And what the Torah says is, here's Joseph. 10 years of struggling, pain in prison, but the first instinct he has when he sees these two guys looking down is to extend them an act of kindness, to ask them how they're doing. One small act of kindness. And you all know the rest of the story. He ends up interpreting dreams. Well, that one small act of kindness ignited a transformation. Not only did it get Joseph to a better place, but it actually saved the Egyptian nation, because he ended up servicing the Pharaoh himself. Now, I tell you that story, but because I simply want to make the point is that if it wasn't for that one small act of kindness in my dad's life, I wouldn't be here now. If it wasn't for the one small act of kindness in a jail cell in Egypt, it would not have transformed more in the country. We all have that power, but I want to end especially on one area of the Parsha. Last year, this very week, I was in Israel. I asked my dad where he wanted to go as his health fails, where he wanted to go on a last big family trip, and my mom and my dad said, Israel. I can't tell you how amazing it was to take these two seminal human beings in my life who gave me life to that great country, stood there in front of the hotel praying with my father. It is one of the moments I will treasure for a lifetime. But at the end of that night, where it was a wonderful day, I put my parents to bed, and the two Israeli former special service men who were working with me and providing security came up to me and said, Cory Booker, now we will go for a ride. And I looked at them and I said, I will go for a ride. And they put me in a car and we drove off-road into the desert, and all I could think to myself is, dear God, is this what they do to the Goyim in this country? Bring them out into the desert. We came to a hill. We stopped. I saw the valley and lights. I thanked God. Baruch Hashem. And then, as I looked over and I saw the cell phone service return, before I could call for help, this Israeli soldier put his hand on my shoulder and said, look there, you will see Mount Nebo. Mount Nebo is the place where Moses came and looked into the promised land and knew he would never go there himself. And I knew in my mind the two things that I was feeling there: Mount Nebo, Moses looking into the promised land, and the words of the Torah and the Bible of that week. And I put them together and I turned to the soldiers and I said, give me two things, your Torah and your iPad. They gave me their Torah. I went to the passage. I said, read this. And they read the words from this week's Torah portion. Behold, here cometh the dreamer. Let us slay him and see what becomes of his dreams. I turned to them and took the iPad and I pulled up a speech, the last one given by this great American, the last one given by one of our seminal dreamers. It was Martin Luther King's speech. And I had that speech playing and made them look at that mountaintop as King said those words, I have been to the mountaintop and I have seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but we as a people will get to the promised land. I'm not fearing anymore. I'm happy, for my eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. And as I stood there, American Christian, before two Israeli Jews, suddenly the words of Kings ringing out to the desert brought us together. And then I looked at them and I told them, on the site where that man was assassinated, at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, at the very site that his life was taken, the words of this week's Torah are written, behold, here cometh the dreamer. Let us slay him and see what becomes of his dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, I am telling you right now, we are that next generation. They may have slain dreamers before us, but the dream is not dead. As long as we have breath in our bodies and blood in our vein and spirits in our hearts, then we have the potential to continue the dream, to make it real, one child at a time. For as it is known that if you save the life of one child, if you empower one kid to succeed, if you transform one child's destiny, then you save the world. Generations yet unborn may not know your names, but they will feel your spirit, they will feel your love. This is our calling. This is the chorus of conviction of our heroes who came before. This is why we are here tonight. We, the conspirators of love. I challenge you as we finish this evening, as you walk past the pictures of the children who could easily be my father, to not only take heart that we are continuing the strength of this organization, but to think about what else you can do. Because there are still children that are cold and hungry. There are still children in trial. But I know in my heart, we can heal this hurt. We can save our kids. We can achieve what Moses and King could not. We can make it to the promised land. We can make this nation and this globe a land of promise and hope for every child born on God's earth. For this spirit that abounds in this room, I give you my gratitude. And to all the people who make KIDS function, I look hard into your spirit and I say, Yasher Kolah. Thank you.